Hello, my name is Claire Hayes. I'm a senior member of the Read Live team, and my job is to educate and support teachers and administrators who are using our programs. In this webinar, I'm going to provide you with an overview of Word Warmups Live. Word Warmups Live is a phonics program that builds automaticity through phonics instruction and decoding practice. I'll be presenting this information using slides and a live demonstration in a sample Read Live account. Accompanying this presentation is a printable handout with the slides and associated resource links. You can also find a link to the student assessment that is used for Word Warmups Live. We have additional basics presentations that teach and inform about the other Read Live programs: Read Naturally Live, 1 Minute Reader Live, and Read Naturally Live Espanol. If you have questions after you viewed this webinar, please let us know and we'll get back to you as soon as possible with a response. Feel free to share this webinar with others in your school or district who may find it of value. Thanks again for joining me. Now let's get started. As I said, Word Warmups Live is a phonics program. It builds automaticity through phonics instruction and practice in decoding. Word Warmups Live is one part of Read Live. Within Read Live are 4 programs, including Read Naturally Live, Word Warmups Live, 1 Minute Reader Live, and Read Naturally Live Espanol. When you're deciding which of these programs is right for your students, it may be different for each individual one. Students who only have fluency needs may just work in the Read Naturally Live program, which focuses on fluency and comprehension, goes from 1st grade through 8th grade reading level. There is a phonics component to Read Naturally Live, and that's ideal for students whose phonics needs and fluency needs are close together. Students who are reading at an early 3rd grade level or below, so 1st to early 3rd grade level, who have both fluency and phonics needs that match up with each other. 1 Minute Reader Live is a totally independent reading program that goes from early 1st grade through mid 5th grade, and it works on fluency and comprehension, and there's supports for vocabulary, and that's ideal for any student who needs a little more structure and guidance during independent reading time. Read Naturally Live Espanol goes from early 1st grade through mid 4th grade reading level and is the same as our Read Naturally Live in English. It's just teaching students to read in Spanish. What we're talking about today is Word Warmups Live, which is a phonics intervention, and it can be paired with Read Naturally Live for fluency. We currently have level 1, which is 1-syllable words, as well as level 2, which is 2-syllable words. Students who have early phonics needs only might just work in Word Warmups Live. Many students have fluency and phonics needs, and so those students who have both may work in both Read Naturally Live and in Word Warmups Live. The time that is the most common is for students who are reading above an early 3rd grade reading level, so mid 3rd grade or above, but have early phonics needs. That's when we tend to have students use Word Warmups Live. When you're scheduling the programs within Read Live, it's nice to know how long to schedule them for and how often to do them. With Read Naturally Live, we recommend about 30 minutes a session, 3 to 5 days a week. It'd be best if you could do it as much as possible. The more time and energy you put into something, the more benefit you get out of it. So 30 to 45 minutes per session for Read Naturally Live with 3 to 5 days a week. Word Warmups Live can be used as just a 10-minute warm-up activity, maybe for young students who are just learning their phonics patterns. It could be a tier 1 intervention or tier 1 program for students who might just do it for a short time every day. For students who are in tier 2 or tier 3 and are going back and revisiting the instruction on these patterns, might do it for a whole intervention block of 30 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week. 1 Minute Reader is really used anytime a student needs some more support and structure during their independent reading time. So it can be used with students who are using our interventions of Read Naturally Live or Word Warmups Live, but also mainstream students who maybe don't qualify for an intervention. It's ideal to be used during independent reading time at school, but also as homework during winter breaks or summer breaks. So Word Warmups Live is what we're focusing on today. And Word Warmups Live uses the powerful strategy that is in all Read Naturally strategies. We have teacher modeling, where students hear audio support of a sound and pattern, of words being slowly sounded out and blended together. They can read along with that audio support and learn how to read the words properly. There's also repeated reading, where students read the same passage over and over again. Or in Word Warmups Live, it's likely to be a word list. So then they may read the same word list over and over again, to the point in which they've mastered the words on that word list or in that story, so that they can read them in a different place, right? We want it to transfer. So we have to bring them to a very high level of automaticity in order for that to happen. The final strategy is progress monitoring, which is not only beneficial for teachers, but it's also incredibly beneficial for students when it's in front of them. It's very motivating for a student, especially one who struggles with reading, to see that they do make progress. They can get better. Their scores do get higher through practice. And so that progress monitoring right in front of the student is a huge motivator for students using any of the Read Naturally programs. Word Warmups Live is ideal for allowing us to use differentiation when we're dealing with each student. Each student's at a different place. They have different holes or issues, and they work at different paces. And so Word Warmups Live allows us to meet each student exactly where he is and provide explicit systematic instruction to those students in the ones that they need work on. We also have spelling activities within Word Warmups in order to deepen their understanding both of reading and of spelling. Of course, there's an assessment in order to decide which sections are appropriate for each student, and there's a lot of audio support to provide the student with the support they need to become automatic and to learn the words and patterns that they're working on. Level 1 and level 2 are appropriate for any student in 1st through 8th grade who needs support on phonics skills that are taught typically in 1st through 3rd grade. If it is an independent practice in a tier 1 group, it might be used 10 minutes daily. If it's a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention, you may use it for the whole intervention block. Level 1 includes 9 different sections. It starts with letter sounds. Then we go into what you may expect, your short vowel CVC words, then long vowels, silent E, long vowels, long digraphs, blends, vowels with the consonant R, other consonant sounds, and other vowel sounds. Level 2 contains 8 sections, and those are compound words, more compound words, based words not changed by suffixes, and then based words that are changed by suffixes. Words with 2 syllables, open and closed syllables, 2-syllable words with suffixes, and words with prefixes. Level 3 is something that will be coming during the school year, near the end of the school year. And as soon as that level is available, it will be accessible to you within the program. In order to get started, you need to license students within Read Live. So many of your students may already be licensed, and maybe they're using a different program within there. So if they're already licensed, then the first thing you need to do is give them access to Word Warmups Live. You need to assess the students and figure out what is the exact right spot within Word Warmups for each individual student. You adjust the assignment to match what the need is of the student based on what you found while putting the student through the assessment. And you're going to teach the student the steps of the program. When you're deciding which students to use Word Warmups with, you want to, of course, consider what their phonics needs are. Some students have phonics needs that are very close to their fluency needs, and those students are likely to work and Read Naturally Live phonics series. Those students are going to be reading at a 1st or 2nd grade level, maybe an early 3rd. And their fluency needs and phonics needs line up pretty well, and so they tend to also be young students. As students get older, the difference between each part of reading may become greater. And so for those students who are reading above a early 3rd grade reading level, so mid 3rd grade and above, those students are the most likely candidates for Word Warmups Live because they still have early phonics needs, but they can't be addressed within Read Naturally Live. Here's a table of the series that are available within Read Naturally Live. So let's say you have a 3rd grader who's reading a grade level below it, second grade, early second grade level. And that student also struggles with blends and digraphs. Well, Read Naturally Live has a phonics series level on blends and digraphs written at an early second grade level. And so you may be able to meet all the needs of that student within Read Naturally Live. But what if that student is reading at a fourth grade reading level and can handle a fluency and comprehension level at early fourth grade? That doesn't mean they don't struggle with blends and digraphs still, right? Of course, that could still be an issue. You're not going to put a student all the way back at an early second grade level just to address blends and digraphs. We want to allow him to excel as much as he can in these other areas. But if he's going to make the progress he needs to catch up, he's going to have to fill in that hole on blends and digraphs. So we would use Word Warmups Live to address the blends and digraphs issue, and we would put him in the sequence series of Read Naturally Live at the early fourth grade level. So that student would use both. Okay. So I'm going to talk with you about placement, as I mentioned earlier. I'll show you that within the program, and I will also show you the student steps. So let's pop out of the PowerPoint and just head right into the program, and we can log in as a staff member. When I log in as a teacher into my account, I am presented with this orientation page. But when I go to my home page, this is where I spend most of my time, right? The tile I'm looking for in this case is the Word Warmups Live tile. Notice that there are two items listed under the header, and that is print phonics assessments and assign or remove Word Warmups access. So those are the things I can do within Word Warmups Live. So when I go into Word Warmups Live, the first thing I'm going to want to do is give this phonics assessment to my students, see which one of them need it. So I'll first click on the print phonics assessment. Now, the first couple pages of this assessment talk about what I have already stated, and that talks about which of the Read Live programs is right for my student. So if a student only has fluency needs, that student will not need to work in Word Warmups Live. If a student only has phonics needs, that student will work in Word Warmups Live. But what about those students, which is probably a vast majority of our students, who have both fluency and phonics needs? So older students with fluency and phonics needs who are reading above an early third grade level will use both the Read Naturally Live sequence series as well as Word Warmups Live. If you have a student who has fluency and phonics need, but is reading at or below an early third grade level, so tends to be younger students reading below the early third grade, at or below third grade, those students might be able to work in the phonics series of Read Naturally Live if their phonics need lines up well. If it doesn't, then those students may need to use both programs. It just depends on how well they line up. Okay. Now I'm going to scroll down a little further to where you get the instructions on how to use the assessment. As you can see, I mentioned it starts with letter sounds and the letter sound assessment student copy. So you're going to want to run a copy of the scoring sheet for each student that you're going to present the assessment to, right? Each student who you're going to send through the assessment is going to need their own copy of the scoring sheet that you will write on. So you'll write your student's name on the scoring sheet. And as you can see, the heading, the first part of the scoring sheet provides you with instructions on how to do it. Basically, you will give your students the student copy of the words. They will read those words to you, and you will decide if the student made an error when reading it. If they did, you will circle the word error and write what they wrote, what they read on the line, so you can notice patterns if you have any. If the student had a slowly decoded word, SD, you will circle the SD. And if they had a self-correction, so they made a mistake, but they realized it and fixed it, then you'll circle SC. You will total those errors, slowly decoded words, and those self-corrections over on the right-hand side. Based on what your total score number is, this guide will tell you whether or not that number means that the student knows this skill well enough or that the student needs to be put in this section. So the copy that the student is going to look at doesn't have all of that on there. So it's much cleaner, and it's just the words that the student needs to read to you. So that is what section level 1 looks like. And our level 2, of course, scroll through here, and here's what the level 2 teacher copy of the scoring sheet looks like. And here's what the student copy looks like. Okay. So once you take a student through this assessment pack, you're going to realize what the student's phonics needs are. So you're going to go back into the staff module, and you are going to grant access to a student who needs to use Word Warmups Live. You will select that student's name and click Add Word Warmups Access. When you click that, you will be given this message where it says, if you click yes, your student is going to be assigned to level 1, section B, which is short vowels, and the goal is going to be 40 words correct per minute. So by default, as soon as you grant access to Word Warmups Live, the student is just automatically put in that CVC short vowel level section B. That might be right for some of your kids, but it's not going to be right for most of them, right? So now when I click yes, I can see that the student has been put in section B, short vowel goal of 40. But let's say the student that I tested struggled in digraphs. I'm going to then click this edit button that's over on the right-hand side. When I click that edit button, I'm brought to a place where I can select the level, section, and goal for my student. So my students started struggling with the level 1. So I will select the option for level 1 under the first drop-down menu. The second drop-down menu for section, when I select that, I'm going to find the section letter and the skill name that the student needs to work on. In this case, it's consonant digraphs. So I will put my student in consonant digraphs. The default goal is 40, and that's probably right for most students, especially young students. Older students may be able to handle a goal more like 50, but you can start them all at 40 and then adjust based on what you see as they go through the first few exercises. So when you click Save and Close, now your student is going to be in section E with a goal of 40, right? So now I've shown you where you can grant them access. I've shown you where you can access the phonics, and phonics assessment, and I've shown you how you can adjust the level and goal and section to meet the needs of what you discovered when you gave them the assessment, right? So you'll go under Word Warmups Live, you'll print that phonics assessment, you'll take your students through that, figure out where their phonics holes are, and then you will edit the assignment and give them the right section based on how they did on that assessment, okay? So now I'm going to go out of the staff module and into the student module. So I'm going to go to a different tab and click on my student login. And I will log in as a student and go through an exercise within Word Warmups Live. As you can see, my student has access to 4 programs within Read Live, all 4 of them. Today, we're going to have the student work through Word Warmups Live.
Please select the next exercise.
As you can see, Molly is my demo student, and she is working in consonant digraphs. She's already passed the sections that have, or the exercises that have stars on them. Notice that the stars are numbered before they're completed. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, and the next one is 5. That is the order that we recommend the students complete them in. However, they can jump around. So if you disagree, or let's say a student only struggles with 2 of the digraphs, they've mastered all the other ones, but NG and CH were troublesome. So then they could just complete the specific ones that they had issues with, okay? So we'll go ahead and take the student through exercise number 5 in the consonant digraph section of NG lesson.
Let's learn to read words with the consonant digraph NG.
Click the word under the picture to hear a lesson.
The first step we're on here is called Look, Listen, and Respond.
Look at the word ring. Ring ends with the consonant digraph NG. Together, the 2 consonants N and G say one sound, ng. Listen for the ng sound at the end of this word as you quietly read it with me. Ready? Ring. Look at the words. All the words follow the same pattern. Each word ends with the consonant digraph NG. Together, the two consonants N and G say one sound. Ng.
Click each word. Quietly sound out and then read the word with the audio.
R, a, ng, rang. H, a, ng, hang. S, I, ng, sing. S, a, ng, song. L, a, ng, lung.
Click a word again or click Next to continue.
So we're done with look, listen, and respond, and now we'll go on to the word list.
Read down the columns and click Finished. Then, read across the rows and click Finished again. To begin, click Start Timing.
So when the student is on the word list exercise or step, they click on Start Timing, and the computer will put an arrow at the top and tell the student to read down. It's highlighted in columns, so the student will read down the columns. It's easier in columns because they follow more similar patterns. When they come to a word they don't know,
Zing, gong. Hung.
they can click on it and it's read for the student, so they can have as much support here as they need. When they read that final word in the last column, they click Finished, and now it highlights going across. This is more challenging for students because it doesn't follow a similar pattern. They can still click on a word even if they hadn't clicked on it before.
Fang,
And they can click on a word if they've already clicked on it. So if they need to hear it again, they can.
gong.
When they get to the final word going the other direction for the second time through the list, they'll click Finished again.
You need to practice more to meet your goal. Click Start Timing and continue practicing.
So now the student hasn't reached their goal, and so she will practice again. Again, as she goes through, all the words that she clicked on before are no longer underlined. If she makes a mistake or is unsure of a word, she can still click on them,
King,
regardless of how many times she's gone through. The default setting is that the student will have to practice at least 3 times and reach the goal. Okay. Most of your students will practice 3, 4, 5 times before they reach that goal. They click Finished, going down, now they go across, they click Finished again.
You've reached your goal. You've finished all your practices. Click Start Timing to practice again, or click Next to continue.
So again, your students will probably practice at least 3 times and have to reach their goal. And after they've done that, they'll be able to go on to the next step, which is spelling.
Click the speaker icon to hear a spelling word. Then, type the word and click Show Me to see the correct spelling.
sang. Our class sang 3 songs in the spring concert. Sang.
Compare your word to the correct answer. Fix your word if it doesn't match. Then, click Check.
Wing. The eagle had a broken wing. Wing.
So I misspelled it. So I can tell that now that they provided me with the answer. So I will fix it. But now when I hit check, I'm not going to get that gold star because I didn't type it correctly the very first time through. I had to see the correct spelling first. So now when I click check, it'll just give me a green check.
Ding. You will hear a ding if your answer is correct. Ding. Long. The cat watched the bird for a long time. Long. Hung. We hung the picture in the hallway. Hung.
Play this game while you wait for your teacher. Click the best answer to score points. If there's a speaker icon, click it. Click any word or picture you don't know to hear what it is.
So now the student is on the waiting for a teacher screen. It's red. And so that's the signal to the teacher that you need to stop and work with the student. So if you're in a face-to-face situation, you're walking around the room, and when a student screen turns red, that signals to you you need to stop and work with that student. If you're unavailable immediately, the student has something to do. She can play this fantastic phonics game. Sometimes she's asked about ending sounds, other times beginning sounds, vowel sounds, rhyming, those sorts of things. If she gets the answer right, she gets that
Click
sound
Next
and a
to
star.
try another question.
If she gets it wrong, she gets a red X. The answer is provided for her and it will go back in the box. If you happen to find yourself in a distance learning environment, you can be under the staff module. So I'm going to go over to a different tab where the staff module is. Within the waiting list of the staff module, Molly's name has appeared on here because she's working in Word Warmups Live and she's on the pass step. That means that she's waiting for me. So her name is on the waiting list. It tells me which application she's using. It tells me which step she's on. Her login button is red because Molly is currently logged into the program. If she was no longer logged into the program, her button would be white. Okay, so if you find yourself in that situation, this is how you can manage it, even if you're not in the same place. All right. Hopefully you'll be face-to-face as much as possible, and you'll be able to click this gold Conduct Pass Activities button. You'll enter your teacher username and password. You have to enter the right one. And now you and Molly will be looking at the same screen. She's going to read this word list for you. You can't click on words she doesn't know anymore. Okay, now you're just keeping track of how many words she misses and you'll put them in this box. She can only have 3 errors and still pass. Okay, so high level of accuracy expectation. There is nothing about expression when you're reading a word list, so we don't gauge that. We're just looking at words correct per minute and accuracy. So when she reads now going the opposite direction all the way through, when she gets to that final word, she'll click finished again.
Wait for your teacher to enter the number missed. Then click Next to continue.
We enter the number of missed words and click next. We get to see the graph of how far she got. We get to take a look at her review her work and take a look at additional details. For example, she's clicked on 6 difficult words. Here they are listed. So if I have a moment, I might have her read these words for me to be sure that she's firmed them up. I can also look at the spelling mistake she made and it tells me what she spelled. So the way she spelled it, so I can see if there's a pattern in that, in those misspellings. If I want to look at the word list graph, I click on the next tab over and I can see that. I can also look at the spelling graph. I can print these from here. I can also run them and print them from the staff module. Now we're on that final remedial action screen. And in this case, Molly has 1 misspelling word. So I would have Molly go back and redo her misspelling words. You do have the option to pass with current scores if you need to be done for some reason, but I tend to have my students go back and fix any mistakes they make as much as possible. So this time,
click the speaker icon to hear a spelling word.
Molly will
then type the word and click Show Me to see the correct spelling.
Molly will try to spell this on her own this time.
Wing. The eagle had a broken wing. Wing.
Compare your word to the correct answer. Fix your word if it doesn't match. Then click Check.
Notice that we're back on spelling, but it does say redo down here. Okay, and if she gets this right, she's done. She won't need me again.
Congratulations. You passed this exercise. Click Done to finish. Please select the next exercise.
So Molly completed that exercise. Now she probably would go on to review, but I want to show you what the story exercise looks like. It's a little different because it's a story. So we're going to walk through that quickly as well. So again, we have these recommended numbers in which the order for them to complete, but they can go out of order.
Look at the story, Fish That Shock. Notice the consonant digraphs in many of the words in this story.
Click Start Read Along and read along as the story is read to you.
So now we're going to listen to the student read this story, but we're not going to actually have to listen to it. But I'll just explain what can happen here. So the story options are adjustable, but it's set that the student does do a read along with the audio support. Then they practice reading the story and there is a short quiz. And then you listen to them read the story and you verify they read it at a good enough rate, that they had some expression and that they were accurate. You also take a look at their quiz questions. So when you have a story exercise, you're going to see a lot of the different sounds of the different patterns. So you'll see in this case, NG and CH and TH, there'll be many words of all the different individual lessons. So consonant digraphs had CH, TH, SH, and NG, and words of all those patterns will be in this story. Anytime you work on a passage, you want the student to check for comprehension. You don't want to work on fluency in a vacuum. So we do have that quick quiz. It's nowhere near as robust as the comprehension components within Read Naturally Live, but we do at least check a little bit for their comprehension when we do that quiz. This read along is intended for them to read out loud along with the audio support. So it's not a listening activity. We need to see their lips moving, right? Eyes on the page, lips moving. And I say to my students, if I am standing next to you, I want to hear what you're reading. I want to be able to hear you. Don't want to hear you if I'm in the hall, but I want to hear you when I'm standing next to you. For those of you who are in schools with masks on your kids, it's hard because you can't see their lips moving. So that standing next to them is a good option for ensuring that you can actually hear them whisper read while they're near you.
Click Start Read Along to read along, or click Next to continue.
All right, so now that the student has done their required read along, and you can adjust how many are required for each student, now the student will go to the practice the story.
Click Start Reading and begin reading.
Now the student is practicing reading the story, doing these things on their own, okay? The student doesn't need you until this pass. If they're unsure of a word,
electric,
it can be clicked on, and then it will be read for the student so they get any support they need. They do like to click here because they know you're going to mandate that they're accurate when they get to the pass step. So every word that they see is clickable.
they,
Okay, they're less likely to click on they, but certainly the bigger words, the proper nouns, they will click on to make sure that they're reading them accurately so that they can do that for you. I have it set at 1 required practice, but that can also be adjusted. The default, I believe, is 2 or 3. And so your students will have to practice multiple times. You don't have a specific goal that they're reaching like that you do with Read Naturally Live, but you want to make sure they're reading at an appropriate rate, somewhat close to what they speak, that they have some expression, and that they are reading accurately. So they can only have 3 or fewer errors in the minute timing in which they read the story. When they get to the final word in the passage, they can click the finished button.
Click Start Reading to practice, or click Next to continue.
So most of your kids will probably practice more than one time, but we'll go on to the quiz.
Click each blank and pick the best answer. Then click Next.
So now the students select the answer to fill in the blank. So electric eels have long, thin shapes. They can give off strong shocks. Sometimes fishermen catch electric eels in their nets. The eel's shock can kill the other fish. The electric eel can even kill a horse with a shock. So notice that all the words that are chosen are words that have consonant digraphs.
Play this game while you wait for your teacher. Click the best answer to score points. If there's a speaker icon, click it. Click any word or picture you don't know to hear what it is.
So just like in the word list exercises, when they're doing a story exercise, they play this game while they wait for you.
thus, rhyme, with,
Okay, so they can have every word read to them if they need it. And you will click on the Conduct Past Activities button when you come to work with them. And now the student is going to be reading the passage for you. So the student just reads this passage. And once they've read all or part of the story, you're going to decide whether or not the student has exceeded expectations, has met expectations, or did not meet expectations. Okay, so we don't have real firm, explicit, exact guidelines. There's not an exact goal, like I said before. So we are just going to decide, is it good enough? Does it sound fluent enough for us to accept it? So we'll go ahead and say that the student exceeded our expectations. We can see that the student, what the correct answers are and what the responses are, they are all right.
Congratulations. You passed this exercise. Click Done to finish.
So the student has completed this. She got medals and blue ribbons because she got all her quiz questions right the first time. And she exceeded my expectations with her reading of the story. So now she's done.
Please select the next exercise.
So now that you've seen all the steps that students go through with a word list exercise, as well as a story exercise, as you might imagine, the review is just kind of a summary of these other 5 exercises. Those are what students would do until they are complete all the exercises that you need them to, or all in the section, and then you would put them in the next section that you think is appropriate for them to work in. So those are the steps that the students go through within Word Warmups Live. We do have all those progress monitoring reports available from the teacher menu in the student module, as I showed you. There's also in the staff module. So if you don't have time to look at those data reports with the student or print them from there, you can run them and print them and review them from the staff module as well. The reports include the word list graph, the spelling graph, as well as the exercise details. Here are some of those reviews, a sample of the progress monitoring reports that we showed you. So as you can see, we saw those bar graphs, but when you print it, the table underneath appears for the bar graph, providing additional details. Here are a number of different help pages, help guides, and resources we have available on our website, including the student training videos, which is under our training tab on our company website. So if you go to readnaturally.com and find at the top where the bolded word training is, you'll see in that drop-down menu student training videos. And there's a set of videos for all 4 of the programs within Read Naturally Live. So we have training videos for our Read Naturally Live, for Word Warmups Live, for 1 Minute Reader Live, and for Read Naturally Live Espanol. So please check out those student training videos to help you train your students to do this program properly. Thank you so much for your time and your attention and your interest in Word Warmups Live. We do hope to hear from you. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. Thank you for all you do for your students and for struggling readers. We are very grateful for the dedication that you have to your students and your communities. Have a wonderful day.